itsavgbltpta. I totally suck at video games, but love to play them anyway. Aloha! Okay guys, let's have a talk about Nintendo and their recent activities involving censorship and localization changes. The Japanese version of Fire Emblem Fates, called Fire Emblem If in Japan, has an optional skinship minigame to help raise support levels between the avatar and any of their party member, their support units. This involves using the touchscreen to pet a 3D model of a support unit on their head until they're pleased enough to reward you with a line of dialogue. So a few days ago, notorious clickbait website Kotaku had an article saying that this optional skinship minigame had been completely taken out of the version that was coming over to the US. Now, disclaimer, as of the time I'm recording this, Nintendo has not made any official statements about whether the petting minigame will be in or out of Fire Emblem Fates. In fact, they've actually been kind of really hush-hush about it. People, including myself, have reached out to them with emails asking them not to take out this feature after hearing about it, and the only email you get back is there's no official statement on this yet. We will forward your concern on to the proper channels. So they're not saying anything. And in fact, they even turned comments off of their YouTube video, the latest one for the trailer for Fire Emblem Fates. They turned comments completely off because I'm sure they knew it would just be a whole mess of where's the skinship minigame, stuff like that. So that's the latest hubbub about Nintendo, but I wanted to take a step back and kind of look at the whole situation a little bit on both sides and see what's up with the censorship or localization or whatever you want to call it. So it's not like Fire Emblem Fates is the first Nintendo game to get censored at all in any fashion. Back in like the 80s and 90s, Nintendo censored a lot of stuff, usually around religion or sex or stuff like that, because Nintendo was kind of more for kids. They're kind of escaping that, or they were escaping it, but now people are really putting the spotlight on them and their censorship again. The latest batch of games that came out for like the Wii U and the 3DS, Fire Emblem Awakening, didn't actually have too much censored. It did have one of the characters, Tharja. She, in one of the DLC, I think, they go to like a hot spring or a beach or something, and she has on a swimsuit that shows a little bit of what they call ass cleavage, and the US version had her like have a towel in her hand or something that covered just the top of her ass. The bottom was fine, but you can't have ass cleavage. And you know what? It was stupid censorship, but if it got them less, or if it got the ESRB less mad at them, I'll take it, whatever, that's fine. It's just like a little towel, and you can find that image online anywhere if you just wanted to see it. The uncensored version, that is. Another thing I learned recently that they took out of Awakening for the US release was actually when you could choose your voice for your avatar. However, there was a third option in the Japanese version where the avatar was mute, kind of like, you know, an homage to the silent protagonist of old. But they rewrote lines to actually, you know, go around the avatar didn't say anything. So instead of being like, oh, thanks for agreeing, it'd be, what, you're not saying anything? I'll just assume you agree, or something like that. They took that completely out of the US version. No one made a big deal about it. In fact, I didn't even know until I was looking up stuff for this, but it's just interesting to note. Bravely Default had another clothing censorship. There is, and an age censorship kind of thing going on too. There are characters, at least one girl who is 15 in Japan, but they aged her up to 18. Pretty sure they made all the girls 18 or older. They changed a couple outfits to cover more skin on these girl characters, and whatever, it's T-rated. One of the outfits was like a bunch of strips of cloth, and like one just had like a bikini instead, and they changed it to boy shorts. It's, again, silly, but I'll take it since it's just aesthetic changes, doesn't change any gameplay, it's just the outfits. And then Fatal Frame came out, and they did another outfit switch where Fatal Frame 4, Maiden of Black Water, I believe it's called, they got, the girls get wet because you're in water, and they had a couple outfits that were like either bikinis or swimsuits or something, and they changed it. In fact, the US actually might have gotten the better end of the deal on this, because they changed it to like a Zero Suit Samus and a Zelda costume, I think. Which I don't know if Japan got as DLC or something, but hey, We got some cool costumes out of it. I mean, we missed out on, you know, sexy bikini wear, but we got Zero Suit Samus and Zelda. That's not too bad of a trade. And Xenoblade X Chronicles, Xenoblade Chronicles X, whatever they want to call it, the one that just latest came out. They did have another couple of outfit changes just because there is a young looking character and she was able to wear like a bikini, and that was just nope, we're not doing that. So they changed hers to boy shorts too, I think, something like that. Or they just took that outfit off of her altogether, I'm not sure. Because the other characters can still wear it, just not the little girl. But they also took out what I like to call the boob slider. It's basically a slider that when you're making, you create a character in that game, and you can change, you know, their height, their build, stuff like that. And the girls in the Japanese version had a chest, you know, change. You could change the size of their chest from small to large. And they got rid of that in the West. And honestly, that change is not so cool with me. It is still just an aesthetic change, but newsflash USA, girls have different breast sizes. And if a girl wanted to make a character that looked like her, and just can't adjust the boobs, maybe she's got small boobs, can't have small boobs, maybe she's got big boobs, can't have big boobs. It's kind of like saying, like, you have to have medium-sized breasts to be acceptable. I mean, I get it that they just didn't want people having big boobs all over the place, but honestly, like, people have different sized boobs. They shouldn't have taken that one out. Other games have left it in. Some fighting games, I think, like, can't remember the name, Soul Calibur had like a creative character that had that. I think even, oh gosh, what's it called? White Knight Chronicles, I think, even has it. There's some other games I can't think of at the moment, but they have the slider left in, and it hasn't been an issue. Nobody's really said anything about it, and yet they decided to take it out without even like a real good reason why. So that was kind of the start of the, maybe this is going to be a trend thing. And then Fire Emblem Fates. They've took out, well, as of now, it's pretty much, judging by what we've been hearing, pretty much that they are going to take out the skinship minigame, and they also have adjusted some dialogue. I won't get into that because that's a whole nother bag of worms, but that's more expected. But the thing about taking out the skinship minigame is that's taking out a whole section of a game. It's not changing an outfit or an aesthetic choice. It's actually giving us less gameplay, and that's not a good thing. It's not something we want to encourage. Now, I'll give you another disclaimer. I actually hope they keep this skinship minigame in because it looks really cute. It's also a lot of dialogue that's added to the game. So if they take it out, that's a lot of stuff that we're just missing. Granted, most of the dialogue isn't anything important. It's just kind of like, wow, that felt nice, or thanks for inviting me to your room, or something like that. But there are some key dialogues that reveal things about characters, especially a couple that I don't want to mention because of spoilers. But if they look familiar, there's a reason why, but you hear officially in the skinship minigame thing. Not to mention just any other way of gaining support levels, as minor as it may be, just seems useful, especially for the Nor campaign in Conquest, where maybe the one tiny little like help of support isn't going to make or break the game, but since you can only gain support through battles, and in Nor the battles are actually limited, any little bit does help. Maybe not everyone will play the game. It's optional. It's an optional skinship minigame, but they are not even giving us the choice. They are just completely, well, in theory, they are going to completely take away a whole bit of gameplay from us, which, not a fan. It's kind of, I guess, like the Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which I also just learned when making this. In the hard modes in the Japanese version of that game, there's more script. There's more script that explains and goes into the story even more. And in the US version, they kind of just didn't translate that script. They just left it as it was. So there's like, I think they calculated it as 5% of the story. The US just doesn't get because they didn't feel like translating the hard mode scripts. I don't know. Not sure why that is. But again, that's gameplay that they took out, but it was dialogue versus like taking out a whole piece of actual programming gameplay. I don't like either way, but it is what it is. Now this head patting thing, the skinship minigame where you pat a person's head and they like it, it has been in at least one other game that's released in the United States with no issue whatsoever. The Hatsune Miku, the Project Diva F games for the PS3 and maybe the PS Vita version, you can go and like give the little singers, the idols, like items, and you can pat them on the head until they're happy, and nobody cared. So I don't know why they think people will care in Fire Emblem that you use a little stylus to just ruffle someone's head. Like, whatever. I don't like them taking away gameplay, I should just say. I mean, Pokemon. Look at the latest Pokemon. Pokemon Ami is in it. I think it's called Pokemon Ami, where you have the little Pokemon and you use the touchscreen to pet it to raise its like happiness level with you. That's the same thing, but they're taking it out of Fire Emblem. And with Pokemon, you get to pet the whole body. So you ever pet a Mr. Mime? You ever seen a Mr. Mime? Or a Machop? Yeah, you can pet it everywhere. At least in Fire Emblem, you can only pat them on the head, and I guess their face, but still. They have it in Pokemon. They took it out of Fire Emblem. Again, in theory, they have not officially announced anything as I'm recording this. But I'm 90% pretty sure that, yeah, it's out, and that's probably why they haven't responded yet. There have been other games that take stuff out. There's stuff like Yakuza 3. I remember there was actually a big hubbub about it. Yakuza 3, they took out a Japanese quiz show game, which I get because it's like 100 questions or something of Japanese history, and a lot of the answers actually revolved around the kanji, and that's not so translatable, and not to mention a lot of people playing the game are going to have no idea, and they don't tell you like the answers in the game. It's not like you find out. This is just Japanese history that you should know. They took that out of Yakuza 3 and 4, and I get that. It sucks, but it's more understandable. However, I remember in Yakuza 3, they took out the whole host club thing. Their excuse was they didn't have enough time to fully translate and add it into the game because they wanted to release it. But really, I'm pretty sure it's because they didn't think the US was ready for a whole host club thing. Which, if you don't know what a host club is, just look that up on Google. Or hostess club, I guess. Both. Either way works. But they took it out of 3. They did not include it. I mean, it's in the game, technically. They just locked it off. But then for Yakuza 4, they actually brought it back. They were like, okay, we're going to actually translate the whole hostess club thing, and you're going to be able to play it this time. We're sorry we didn't have it in 3. We're going to have it in 4. And I thought that was a really cool move on Sega's part, being like, hey, sorry, I guess you guys were vocal enough that you wanted this, so we're going to make sure it's in Yakuza 4 for the US. And that was a good move. Nintendo, on the other hand, is like, hey, Pokemon and me? Oh, Fire Emblem? No, you don't get it. No. I mean, there are ways around this. If they have already removed it, the game comes out on the 19th of February. If they've already removed it, I'm fairly sure they just locked it off coding-wise because it actually takes more work to remove programming than to lock it off. Which is why Grand Theft Auto had the hot coffee mod and stuff where you could access it if you got around the coding, because it would have taken a lot more work to actually take it out of the game. So if they just locked it off, they could put out some DLC, day 1 DLC or a patch or something like that where it unlocks it and we get the skinship minigame. However, that would also involve they may have to bring the dub voice actors if they just didn't do that. You didn't bring the dub voice actors to do those lines at all because they didn't think they were doing it. So it does create a little bit more of a problem if they've already locked it off and created the cartridges to ship. But it's not impossible to get around if they've already done that. If they are leaving it in, that's even better. So I will be happy, and you can just take this as bubkiss because, well, it won't mean it. Well, it'll still be looking at censorship and localization changes, but it'll be in a more positive spin because it'll be happy that they decided the US was okay to have the skinship minigame, that we weren't denied access to it. I guess what I want to take away from this is I really hope that they leave it on because here's kind of the comparison of what it is. Let's say maybe Nintendo's been burned before with US people decrying things and asking for changes. So let's say it's like this. Your friend has been to this ice cream parlor before and has yelled at the waitstaff for giving her a cherry because she's allergic to cherries and she hates them and they shouldn't be on Sundays. So she's been there before and she's done that. You go with her this time and you both order the super mega ultra chocolate sundae deluxe, and the waitress knows this girl, knows she hates cherries, just assumes you hate cherries too, and decides not to put any cherries on your super mega chocolate sundae deluxe, whatever I called it. So she brings it out, and you know what? It's a delicious sundae. It's still good. It's got chocolate and nuts and sprinkles and whatever, fudge, caramel, brownie, everything on it. It just doesn't have the cherry on the top, and it's because your friend hates cherries, so you don't get it either. And you're looking around and you're seeing everybody else who's ordered this sundae, and y'all paid the same amount and y'all expected the same thing. They get cherries on theirs and you don't, and it's still a really great sundae, and it was worth the cost that you paid for, because wow, you've never had a sundae as good like that. You got a full complete sundae. It just was kind of missing something, just missing the taste of the cherry on top that you can't stop thinking about now because you really wanted it, but it wasn't there because the waitress didn't think you wanted a cherry just because your friend also didn't. It's kind of, I mean, that seems, I like food analogies, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Fire Emblem Fates is still going to be a good game, whether they include the skinship minigame or not. It's a complete game, 3 complete games in fact, but it's still going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's got all of the battle gameplay, a lot of dialogue and story, but I'm always going to be thinking of that cherry that could have also been on top. That skinship minigame with a little bit of extra dialogue that just isn't there if they don't have it available in the West. So, yep, those are my thoughts on the Nintendo censorship localization issues that are going on with Fire Emblem Fates. I hope maybe this helped inform you, or maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Like I said, I hope it's there. I understand if it's not, why it's not, but it just kind of sucks. So you can leave a comment, you can ask questions if you have any. Just let me know, and let me know if you got any more things you want me to do some thoughts on as well. So I hope you enjoyed, and here's waiting for February 19th to see what the final verdict is.